have the absolute joy to welcome up our first keynote speaker. She is a woman who lives what she leads. Kara brings unmatched insight into people-first leadership, culture transformation, and the power of aligning purpose with performance. A trusted voice in leadership, Kara brings a phenomenal faith-forward approach that is both bold, inspiring, and transformational. Please help me in welcoming Kara Jorvig to the stage.
Thank you, Melissa. Appreciate you. Thanks. Well, good morning. What an absolute honor to be kicking off the second annual Faith Forward Conference. I want to take a moment to thank Sarah and Mark and Melissa and Drew for carrying on this very important mission. This opportunity last year was an unexpected blessing for me in so many ways, and so I am just so excited to be up on the stage, spending the next hour with you. All right, so before we get started, I wanted to ask you a question. Have you ever been on a path in your business, on your leadership journey, or even your life, where that path just didn't feel sustainable? Maybe you were overwhelmed by the pressure, the pace, the heavy responsibility, the constant change, the uncertainty. Maybe you were overwhelmed with the people dynamics, or the ambiguity, or the complexity that was growing. Maybe you were on fire with your goals, but your vision was outpacing the people around you. Or maybe, just maybe, your work didn't carry the same passion or energy that it once did. And you find yourself asking, is this sustainable? I've been through many crossroads in my career and entrepreneurial journey. I've always been driven, high achieving, maybe a little type A, so I have a tendency to work myself into this pattern. But one of my biggest crossroads came to me about 2 years ago. And I remember it specifically because it was around this time of year. We were approaching the holiday season. I was in last session with a CEO that I advise, and he asked if he could give me a gift. I don't typically exchange gifts with our clients, so this was kind of an interesting opportunity, but I was curious, I was open. He knew how much I valued personal growth and immersion experiences, and he had told me about a life-changing event that he had been a part of. And he had a ticket, he couldn't attend this year, so he asked if I wanted to go in his place. I'm gonna have to drink water as we go. I reflected, gave my best yes, and a year later I found myself in an auditorium with 15,000 people from all over the world. Like most immersion experiences for me, there's always some sort of golden nugget or takeaway. And for me that year, it was this deeper self-awareness of how I was waking up feeling each day. I was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed by the pace, oftentimes, which I was creating. I was overwhelmed by the decisions that I was either making or not making. I was overwhelmed by the uncertainty, still rebounding maybe from COVID. I was overwhelmed. And that overwhelm can turn into fatigue, even negative emotions that we don't always consciously understand are there. Fatigue can turn into frustration and even a quiet resentment. What I came to learn is the overwhelm wasn't the core issue. The deeper issue was misalignment. I was completely out of sync with what I valued the most, what mattered the most. I was having success, I was grateful for all of the things that I was achieving, but the way I felt didn't feel sustainable until I once again in my career learned how to reset my leadership and break my pace. One of my favorite quotes that keeps me centered is this: success without fulfillment would be the ultimate failure. I'm gonna say it again because I look at this, I say this out loud to myself every day and it keeps me grounded. Success without fulfillment would be the ultimate failure. On the Western side of the world and in business, we define success by what we achieve. Profit, EBITDA, revenue targets, KPIs, metrics, and no doubt, what I argue as a business owner, we have to be profitable in order to be purposeful in our work. But success is external. Fulfillment is how we feel. Fulfillment is internal. My story and so many leaders that I've had the opportunity to intersect with and support, what oftentimes looks like success on the outside is conflicted with how they're feeling within. Success without fulfillment would be my ultimate failure. At Allegro Group, we play with pace. I was telling Melissa this morning, I drink my water fast, I drink my coffee, I walk fast, I talk fast. I love to play at a pace. Allegro is a music term. My dad was a music teacher, so it was a bit of a nod to my dad when I started this business 10 years ago. But think about this as leaders, the pace that you're running, the autopilot that you're on. And what we're so passionate about helping businesses, teams, and leaders do is break that pace. Build the muscle. We're going to talk about muscle building today. Build the muscle to intentionally slow down so you can build back up with momentum, with clarity, with focus, with renewed spirit and energy. Over the past 20 years, I have been blessed to work with hundreds of organizations and thousands of leaders. I have been a student of business and leadership. I love studying people. I've worked with companies that range from industry, size, and scope, from CEOs that are running billion-dollar organizations to elite special forces, athletes, senior executive teams, entrepreneurs, and really the challenge is all the same. It doesn't matter the size, scope, industry, we're all chasing growth. We're all on this flywheel that keeps going faster, faster, more, and we get stuck in it. I even think I'm teaching my kids the same thing. So here's what I've learned. Scaling a business, it's hard. Some would argue that running a business today is more complex than it's ever been before. Scaling means to grow. I think about some organizations that we support, and they're like, we're changing. Of course you are. You're scaling. Something has to change. To grow means to change. But what if the change started with you? I truly believe to the bottom of my heart, you cannot grow anything without being introspective. We believe at Allegro that personal transformation, personal growth ultimately leads to business performance and results. And that's different. Now, some of you believe that to the core, and then some others might challenge that. Growing people to be better human beings is ultimately going to make me money? Yes. Giving people an opportunity to personally grow leads into business transformation, but I don't think you can do that without being introspective. Today is an opportunity to be introspective, to look within. But it's hard. It can be, it doesn't have to hurt. We can bring energy and actually enjoy the process. Staying aligned to our values is essential. I think about why I started Allegro Group, and how we started versus where we're at today is completely different. It's so unexpected. But I started the organization to support values-based leaders. People that were grounded in their values. Leaders that understood that values mean more lived than stated on the wall. There are so many CEOs right now that are challenged with, how do I grow and scale my business while adhering to my values? I remember asking a politician one time, do you think that you can get to that spot and achieve that without compromising who you are? And do you know what his answer was? No. The world needs more values-based leaders. I know this too to be true from lived experience, that success without fulfillment is not sustainable. We want to work hard and achieve amazing things in life, growth and goals, but if how we feel in the process doesn't have an energy, you're not passionate. The perspective that I want you to think about and consider today is, do you have to teach yourself or build muscles around being fulfilled? Most leaders I ask, how are you feeling each day? Tell me about your energy and your emotion. It's very rare that I hear people say, I wake up feeling peace, joy, love, freedom, creativity, and fun. And if any of you wake up like that, I want to work with you. So please wait for me in the back. No, we wake up overwhelmed. We wake up just running a pace or disconnected, not even engaged, just grabbing our phones. Again, on this autopilot. Success without fulfillment, I know, is not sustainable. I also know to be true that unique experiences, they shape your perspective. Part of my job is to collide perspectives with people that don't always agree, to build a healthy tension within a team and or organization. That's important as it relates to high performance. I think it's hard right now for people to be open to new perspectives. New experiences can shift and or change your perspective. I also know to be true that energy management and emotional control remain the top competencies that we continue to work on with senior and executive leaders. We're trying to help midpoint leaders learn that these are skill sets. Where's your energy at? Where's your emotion? 5 years ago, I would have never guessed that I would be leading work that we're leading at our Lakeside Leadership Destination, Cambrio, as it relates to work with leaders with energy and emotions. And if you think about leader, it's how you think about leadership, because I believe leadership is a skill. I believe that leadership can be taught. Now, maybe some of you are more natural leaders than others, or you have more experience. Maybe some of you work at your game. Maybe others, it's been a hot minute. How we lead at home is oftentimes more difficult than how we lead at work. Energy management and emotional control. And then we've got to always remember, there's a gap. There's always a gap between where we are and where we want to be. That's what I love about journaling, because you can look back and reflect on last week or even 3 years ago and always remind and center yourself in this. You may not be where you want to be, but you are not where you were. So here's what I know to be true about all of you. I see some familiar and friendly faces in the audience, some new that I hope that we can connect with over the next 2 days. But I know that there are a lot of successful, high-performing, high-achieving leaders in this room. I know many of you have had or you have really big goals. Everyone here is in a different season of life. Because you're in a different season, you might have different values or you might prioritize things differently. Kaya, my oldest daughter, after next year, 2 years left. All decisions are made through that lens right now. I know that each of you have businesses or you're part of businesses or teams, and they're all in a different stage or state of development. I also know that there's a wide range of self-awareness here. It's one of the top skill sets that people are looking for with leaders and teams. Some of you are hyper self-aware, and for others, maybe it's a muscle you need to build some rep around. Everyone here has a different relationship with vulnerability. Business still has a bias around vulnerability. Maybe leaders do. To be vulnerable means to be weak. To ask for help, to admit that you don't know something. To be curious means to be vulnerable. Vulnerability breeds high performance in teams. It's the foundation of trust. Using it intentionally, having boundaries around it, of course. But vulnerability is a powerful thing. But again, here's what I know to be true about all of you here today, is that we are all here for the next 2 days because we are grounded in our values. We are grounded in faith. So let's break our pace. We wanted to make today's session a little bit interactive. They gave me 60 minutes. That was a lot. So I gotta make sure I make my time and don't give you too much time to break. We wanna keep you focused, we wanna keep you energized. But if you were to zoom out from your day-to-day, I mean, did anyone come in a little hot today? Lots going on. Having a hard time leaving your phone down. You just pick up your phone and just touch the buttons, don't you? It's just like an automatic thing. There's really nothing to look at. I'm just telling you, your team's okay. Your family's okay. Again, we help businesses, teams, and leaders break their pace so you can build clarity. You have more awareness. You're trying to get yourself into stronger alignment and build that focus and momentum so you can crush your goals, whatever they might look like for you. Because success is defined differently by each of you. How you define success, how I define success, it might look different. That's what I love about it. All right, so are we willing to break pace? I was looking for hype leaders right away. I got JT and Jenny, okay? They are the best hype leaders that one could ask for. They can change the energy in the best way in the room. So we're gonna do this. This is a visual that we use with our clients, and our clients look through this lens of business, team, and their own leadership game. So I'm gonna say this again because you may want to use this as a reflection, a good way to compartmentalize some things as it relates to your business. Or if you don't own a business, maybe you lead a team or you're part of a team. But today, what I want to inspire is that you look through the lens of your own leadership game. I don't have any direct reports, Kara. I'm not the title. No. We're all leaders. We are leaders in our community. We are leaders in our faith. We are leaders in our values. We are leaders for our spouses, for our friends. How you view leadership. So if I were to ask you, zoom out from everything, really challenge yourself to break pace. And the Faith Forward team is inspiring some introspection here with an inventory and a few reflective questions. I'm gonna take that a little bit further today. So some of you might wanna just listen along and reflect. Other of you, like JT, he's already writing notes. He's got his notebook, his journal open. I love that, but do the work. Let's do the work together. Let's pretend we're one-on-one, okay? You and I, we're doing an immersion day together at Cambrio. And I say to you, how would you define your current state of leadership? What would you write down? How would you define your current state of leadership? What's your energy? What emotion do you wake up with each day? Be honest with yourself. If I were to ask you to gauge your fuel in your tank, if 100% is full, or are you running on fumes? How would you define your current state? Now, this can be the more challenging part, and for any of you who are responsible for casting a 3 to 5 or 10-year vision within your organization, does anyone have that responsibility? A few of you, I just want to get to know who's out there a little bit. That can be harder. Why? Because we're so consumed and overwhelmed in our current state. A lot of businesses, to include my own, I used to think I had to have a strategy, and really I was just optimizing the day-to-day. Like, that's not strategy. Building clarity to your future state, leaving your current state behind and allowing your brain to shift over into something that doesn't exist yet. It's your future state, your future self. And again, I love this time of year because November is a season of gratitude. So there's a lot we can be grateful for in terms of our current and the opportunities we have. It's also a really good time to be reflective. I'm sure many of you are in Q4 budgets, strategic planning, getting ready to set your goals for 2026. But if you were to, again, look through this lens of your own leadership, where do you want to be next year when you show up at this conference? What does that future self and state look like? I love the let's work back from 2026. But just think about it here. If you come back, when you come back next year. Where do you want to be? Think about feelings, think about emotions, think about skills, experiences, goals. Write a few things down. or just sit in it. We take people through 3 different phases, and they're not necessarily like check the box, but you go through these phases of growth and transformation, and you just keep doing it again and again, and it cycles. But the first one is clarity. The second one is alignment. And the third is activation. If you look at your notes or even your thoughts, most times for people, there's a variance between where you're at and where you want to be. My personal story of 2 years ago, I was so tired of being overwhelmed. And I had to sort through how much of that overwhelm I was creating for myself versus how much was in the environment. For 10 years of my career, I interviewed people every month, sometimes up to 100 people a month. And I remember always thinking to myself, is it you or is it the job? Is it you or is it the company? Is it you or the culture? Usually it's some of both. But again, we can only control us. We're always the common denominator. So is there a gap? Of course there's a gap. There's always going to be a gap. Because you're high performers, you're high achievers. You have big goals, you have big dreams. We're trying to achieve some things in this world. We're trying to create impact. There will always be a gap, but how do we bridge the gap? So the first step, if you have clarity and can actually say, I'm aware of this gap, then you can map a plan to it. If you can name it out loud, it loses its power a little bit, and you can start to be intentional about bridging the gap from your current state to your future. Again, if you're thinking about it from a business, your team, or your own individual leadership. So let's stay with the leadership track of clarity. It will always start with you. Clarity is the #1 hurdle that businesses and teams are facing as it relates to advancing things forward. Clarity or lack thereof. Clarity on my 3 to 5 year plan. Clarity on our strategy. Clarity on the team that I need to execute to this vision or sustain this business. Clarity on competing priorities. Clarity on my succession plan, my exit strategy. Clarity on what, but how? How am I going to do all of these things? We get stuck and paralyzed, and the cost of inaction becomes great. Think about that, the cost of inaction. Clarity starts with you. Not so long ago, I was debriefing a CEO after a meeting, and I could tell the meeting didn't go that great. He was frustrated. He tried to keep it together, but I read a lot of body language, and I could feel it. I could feel the tension in the room. The team didn't really know how to respond or react, so as they moved out, we sat and debriefed, and I said, hey, what's going on? And he's like, I need a team. It's actually a little bit more colorful than that. We've worked together for a while, so we have a good trust, and we kind of smiled and broke the ice with it, and I said, look, I get it. 77% of companies right now have a leadership gap. So if you experience frustration, you probably have a leadership gap yourself, an experience gap that you're dealing with, or you're inheriting it from someone else. You ever feel like you're just like constant problem solver? That's what we do. That's what we do in leadership, is we're constantly solving problems. So I validated, his concern and felt it. No doubt, myself at times. But I looked at him and I said, hey, we can build you a team and we can get this business back on a track, but this work starts with you. Sometimes our emotions and our energy, they get the best of us. We don't even know how it's manifesting or how we're projecting these things onto other people and how it manifests in our cultures. We lose sight of that if we don't stay on course with self-audit, deepening our self-awareness, and committing to the process of breaking pace. So 2 weeks later, he showed up at Cambrio in his sweatpants to do the work. We did a full immersion day and started to build clarity. But it will always start with you. So how do we do it? How do you build clarity? People ask this all the time. I wish there was like a black and white lightning bolt answer. It's hard. It's hard to build clarity. It takes muscle and reps and discipline to create the time and the space to work on it versus in it, on your business, on your team, on your own leadership game. But we would have to learn to break our pace. So simple things that I think about. Getting quiet to get clear. We have to get quiet to get clear. I think one of the biggest mistakes that leaders make when they're trying to build clarity is they ask everybody else, what do you think I should do? I'm going to transition my career. Where do you think I should work? Where do you think I should go? Like we're supposed to have all the answers. We might flip things back around and just phrase some questions to help people be more introspective. Sometimes we just have to get quiet to get clear. I think to hear God's voice, it doesn't happen. Clarity doesn't happen without creating that very intentional time to just be still and listen. Oftentimes when I'm up journaling, I was up really early this morning, and I'm writing in my journal all my prayers for today, praying over all of you, praying over this conference, and I'm writing, and then all of a sudden I'm like, Kara, just stop and listen. And if you heard something, would you have the courage to act on it? If you knew you were sitting with a decision that you needed to make that wasn't favorable, or you knew in your heart what you really wanted to do, but you were afraid of losing relationships or not being liked. We're going to explore that a little bit more today, what's keeping us from action. I think another simple one, but also very hard, is curiosity. Does anyone else agree the world needs more curious leaders? The world needs more curious leaders. I kind of understand, though, why it happens. You know, as kids, we're so curious. And then all of a sudden, as you evolve in your career, you're like the guy or the gal that has all the answers. So you just start telling everybody what to do, and then all of a sudden, people aren't thinking for themselves. We hear that all the time, consistently from leaders. We need more thinkers than doers. We need people that can critically solve problems. But you got to be curious to do that. What I'm learning is how hard it is to be curious about yourself. Why am I the way that I am? Why am I so easily triggered? Why do I feel so disconnected and out of alignment? Being curious means to be vulnerable. When I start an introspective process with somebody, oftentimes it comes up and sits right here. Because when you start to unpack, you're not quite sure what's going to come up and out. When the CEO showed up for his immersion day, do you think he was all charged up, ready to cast the 5-year, 10-year vision? No, he was tired. He was tired, and he hadn't had a thought partner, someone to process with for a while. I think so oftentimes we intend to get quiet and get clear, but when we get there, what's your energy? Do you have any fuel in the tank? Do you have any capacity for us to do this work? Can you relate to that? I scheduled the block of time, but when I got there, I'm completely exhausted. Or I'm so frustrated because we're talking about the same thing over and over. See how that turns into frustration real quickly? I'm trying to influence, but nobody listens to me. That triggers emotion. And then Sarah talked about it in a little bit different way this morning, but that inner critic, that critical voice that's literally programming your brain, telling yourself a storyline or a narrative, and most times that isn't even true. I challenged one of our masterminders from our mastermind program. I said, would you talk to someone you love the way I'm listening to you talk to yourself? She just cried. No. I am so hard on myself, Kara. And then I know why boss holes are made. I can say that in church, Pastor Paul. I know how boss holes are made. Because their inner critic starts to program them, and pretty soon they start to believe it, and it takes over their energy and their emotion, and pretty soon they start blurting stuff out. I'm like, geez, you're critical. Wow, you're hard on people. We're all guilty of this. I think it's a really important, impactful thing to be aware of our inner critic. So our energy, it builds or it takes our capacity. And we need capacity. If you're gonna skill build, if you're gonna change, if you're gonna modify behaviors, you're gonna make or break habits for yourself or inspire others to do the same, we have to build our capacity. Think about it like a business athlete. Think about what people do to build their capacity. Our emotions, it's our feeling state. I didn't write a business plan, I wrote a feeling state. I wanted to feel a certain way about my work. But our emotions can drive that. So again, constant state of overwhelm, on autopilot with overwhelm, you can see how that would start to manifest into something else that was not intended or unaware. The power of understanding how that impacts how people feel about you as a leader, the power and understanding of knowing how those things can manifest even into culture. For most of us, it's unknowingly. I hope that the world has more compassion for some of the stress and the pressure and the pace and the decisions and the ambiguity. There's a lot of businesses that are trying to just figure it all out. And then your inner critic. If you left with something today and it was just that one little, like, who's the little voice on your shoulder that's reminding you that we all have one? And it might keep us from pursuing our full potential. Our first step with every leader that we work with is to help them create and or reset a personal foundation. This is a plan for your mind, your body, your emotion. As senior executive business leaders, entrepreneurs, we are trying to sustain a pace. I will ask consistently, is the path you're on sustainable? If nothing were to change after today, would you be able to accomplish X? Double your company, reach your profit goals. If nothing were to change, and what do you think most people say to me? I'm on a path. I don't know that it's sustainable in my business, with my team, even in my own leadership journey, Kara. My goal, my role is to help leaders build a path that's sustainable, and that means a path physically, mentally, emotionally, and most importantly, spiritually. So what's your personal foundation? For many of us, it's baseline, drinking enough water, getting enough sleep, getting some exercise. We know that if we move our bodies, we might show up better. So here's a question for you. I want to give some really good introspective questions for you to think about. I'll give you a little bit of time here, but then you'll have some opportunity, I'm sure of it, to create some time and space post-conference. If you were to name or write down one activity that you would commit to after you leave tomorrow, you knew if you did this, it would change things for you. One activity that would refuel your energy or put some fuel or energy in your cup. And you know if you did this, it would actually help you think more clearly. So maybe it's moving your body. Maybe it's stopping the mindless scroll on social media. Maybe it's numbing with Netflix. It could be doing more of something you know you're already doing. I just started working out. I want to try to get that up 5 days a week. I want to spend more time with devotions. Mark just said 4 times a week in Scripture. Is that right? I mean, that's good awareness of the discipline to create time and break pace, to muscle build in a way that's meaningful, transformational. So what's one activity you could commit to today that would refuel you, put energy in your tank, and it would actually help you build capacity? I'm going to ask another question. I have to be careful with this one because some of you might be here with your coworkers or even your boss. Have you ever been part of a team, maybe not this one, but in the past, but part of a team, and I want to see show of hands because I want to really audit this, where you feel like you're not on the same page? Like, we are not on the same page here. Really? You guys have all been part of, whatever. What? Alignment? Oh my gosh, we are out of alignment most times. A CEO is opportunistic, has a big vision, we're gonna do this, this, and this, and then over here are the people that have to execute it all. You ever have that gap? You know, the visionary that doesn't have to do any of the work, we call it the purple squirrel. Ideas, ideas, ideas fairy, always distracted. And somehow we're just gonna magically get all this stuff done, all 250 of your priorities. You ever have that? Yes, you do. It's one of the top challenges that we're working on with businesses, teams, is to create stronger alignment. There is incredible power in alignment. But here's the thing that I know to be true. You cannot create alignment if you're not clear because you have nothing to translate. Kara, what's the vision you have in 10 years? Somebody asked me that once. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't clear on it, so I can't translate it. Organizational and team alignment is one of the top competencies that boards and executives are looking for in their leaders, which means if you're in a leadership role, your job, your responsibility is to build clarity for others. There's incredible power in alignment. So what are some basic things that we could think about? Does anyone feel like as they're reflecting on their 2025 year that they were a little bit overcommitted? Or did you give your best yes everywhere? Just think about how many roles you have in your life. Mom, dad, friend, board member, CEO, leader, Bible study leader. I mean, I couldn't even name it, but one time I did this exercise with someone, there was 25 roles. Oh my goodness. I gotta get to work. I gotta step up my game a little bit. But here's the thing, and someone told me this quote this year specifically, and it deeply resonates with me. With diluted focus equals diluted results. With diluted focus equals diluted results. So this isn't a message of just say no. No is a complete sentence. Someone told me that once, and I'm like, look, you don't know me. I have a bigger heart than my brain. I say yes to everything because I want to help everybody. But all of a sudden, you're overcommitted, you're fatigued, and then insert that quiet resentment that starts to build because you don't have any time for yourself. We want to maintain a servant leadership and service heart, absolutely. But we also have to take care of us. So the message is no, it might be not yet. It's just a pause. Pause before we say yes. My lens is I want to give my best yes. I want to give my best yes, because then I know I can show up fully. And there are going to be moments, there are going to be seasons when I have to give my best no. But I'm a people pleaser. Anyone else a people pleaser? Clarify before you communicate. Who in the room has direct reports? Clarifying expectations, clarifying priorities, clarifying what great looks like in 2026. The list goes on where we need clarity. People are waiting for your clarity. Our mastermind program was designed so we teach leaders how to build clarity for themselves. Don't wait for someone to do it for you. Well, I don't know what my job is. I need more role clarity. We hear this all the time. Well, your job is going to change probably by the quarter because your business is growing, especially if you're positioned right. Anyone need more flexible and adaptable leaders out there that are willing to just kind of go with the change? That's hard in process-centric businesses, people that are black and white. We're continuously talking about strategies of how do you actually build muscles around adaptability and accountability and resilience. To be flexible. So clarify. Challenge yourself, what topics do I need to build clarity on to clearly communicate to the people that are following me? It's so important. And I believe that we have a personal responsibility to do it. But if you're waiting for that clarity from someone else, feel empowered to build that clarity for yourself, your role, your development plan, whatever it might be. And then reconnect with what gives you energy. Someone asked me years ago when I had small kids, hey, Kara, what do you do to refuel? And I was like, I don't have any hobbies. Work, home, work, home. Does anyone get that? Work, home. You lose connection of what actually refuels you. I'm not talking about like a nail appointment or a massage or a quick gym workout or spending time with my kids. I'm talking about what do I do to refuel myself? And it's different for everybody. Some of you get your refuel through people, and some of you are maybe more introspective and introverted. I need quiet time. If you know what gives you energy, protect it. It's important to your emotions, to your inner critic, to how you inspire and influence others. So reconnect or protect what gives you energy. Your passion, it fuels you. We know that when you're in alignment with your values, you feel guided by what's really important, by who's important. And I truly believe that we need reasons in our life because our reasons, our why, often come before results. Anchoring to those reasons. Maybe you put something on your mirror and you're looking at that every day. We have to be incentivized to lean into change. So questions. Do your current commitments and priorities align with what you value the most? Again, it's a great time to think about this as you think about renewing commitments for 2026. Do your current commitments and priorities align with what you value the most? This question always has me thinking. It's a challenging one for me. What's one decision, relationship, or commitment you could realign today that would better reflect your personal values? That decision, that relationship might not be an easy one. The commitment to doing more of something or to stop doing something, those are challenging things to think about, but impactful. Activation. This is where you awaken yourself. You unlock your potential. You build reasons for action. Curiosity has always guided my path. It's inspired my commitment to studying business, leadership, and high performance. A few years ago, I was geeking out on special forces. Why is it that always high-performing teams or special forces or athletics? Like, when are one of you gonna have like the business story that's on the Super Bowl commercial? Come on, let's get inspired. I think a lot of people think that I'm a risk taker because I'm an entrepreneur. And the reality is, I've never even been on a roller coaster. So when I was asked, as I was doing some work with this group, when I was asked to do this, and you can see my face here of terror because I thought we were just gonna do like a toothpick out of the C-130 or like a cannonball, but no, we were gonna do a backflip. And I thought he was joking, but he was serious. And so I'm terrified. I am absolutely terrified. Again, I've never even been on a roller coaster. I hate heights. This was an experience that was an absolute awakening for me. And some of you have skydived. My husband, Brian, did a few years later in San Diego with the same team. And he's like, I don't get it, Kara. I wasn't really awakened the way that you were. The point is, discomfort is the teacher. Stretching yourself to do uncomfortable things. All of a sudden, what you read or what you're studying or listening to on a podcast, all of a sudden it awakens you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Have you ever had one of those experiences where you really went all in on something and it just moved you in a way? This opportunity reminded me that the best opportunities are on the other side of my own fears, my own limiting beliefs. So when I landed, I felt like I was on fire. This network, this work, me studying in this space led and stretched me to experiences that I never thought I would be in some of these rooms and spaces. But one day I got a call, and I'll never forget this, because I was really curious and wanting to talk to somebody who had this confidential, off-the-grid type role. And so through networking and my expanded work, I get a call from someone, and we start to talk, and we're geeking out again on leadership and high performance. And he said, Kara, I'm gonna stand up this leadership program out in Montana, and I would like you to come out and pilot the program. And I was curious, so I asked a few follow-up questions, and I'm like, well, who's going? And keep in mind, I'm not even a glamper at this point, so I'm trying to get my footing on all of this. And he said, well, we've got a Green Beret, we have an Army Ranger, we have a Navy submarine analyst, we have a D1 football coach, a D1 basketball coach, this former Duke football player who's doing this crazy stuff with this NFL company, and then you. I'm like, little old me from small town North, what? My inner critic is screaming, but I'm quiet. And so I said, no thanks. If this is gonna be a bros trip where we're all drinking beer in the woods, count me out, But he said, no, Kara, this is about leadership. I wanna take some of my work and my experiences, and I need your help translating into business. And so I said yes, and I had to hire a coach because I had to carry 45 pounds on my back. I didn't know anything about how to even pack a pack. Again, it was a game changer for me. 70% of what we experience or learn at this point in our careers, it's about what we experience. Again, when we talk about leadership gaps, the experience gaps are just as significant as the leaders we're trying to upskill and or reskill in the world that we're living in. How many of you are thinking about reskilling based on AI? For so many years, we were just talking about upskilling. Now it's we gotta do a completely different job. The job that existed 5 years ago is completely different from today. This opportunity where we engineer adversity, where we use the elements of the environment, where we figure out how to muscle build with resilience and flexibility and adaptability and decision-making under pressure, I will tell you, I was so under heat with this group. It's amazing what happens to your confidence when you're stripped of your competence. We feel like that in business. We're all just trying to figure this out. There is no book at Barnes & Noble that says this is how you don't screw up your business. We're all trying to figure it out. I was so deeply impacted by this program that I ended up buying it. And we take senior and executives out. Some of you, Sarah West and I, have slept in the snow together. It's an impactful experience. It's an awakening. So here are some things to think about. Say yes to what stretches you. You don't have to jump out of a plane or do an off-the-grid backpacking trip. Maybe walking up to somebody in the next 2 days and introducing yourself is a stretch for you. We are living in a world where we are avoiding discomfort. All of our programs have to meet 2 expectations for me. We will always have some sort of push, but there will always be a pause. For most people, pausing is more uncomfortable than any sort of expedition or scramble I could put together on our leadership reaction course. Pausing is more uncomfortable for most leaders than any sort of push program. Sitting in it, letting it come forward, whatever it is that you're here to do today. Hope talks about soul business. Maybe there's healing, forgiveness, hope that needs to be reignited. Say yes to what stretches you. Sitting in it might be just that. Name what's in your way. A good thing to think about is, what's the barrier that's keeping you from doing what you want to do? And what's that limiting belief that you have of yourself? I have had to push through, break through, not only mentally, but physically, I've done some things to try to break through some of my own barriers. I believe that organizations and leaders should play to their strengths. I also think it's important to be curious about where we have growth opportunities and even gaps. And I think that we can bust through some of those things. And we might have to if you really are motivated to become a better version of yourself, so you can help others do the same. And then do what's hard on purpose. When's the last time you did something uncomfortable, but on purpose. There's a lot of uncomfortable things in our world, no doubt. There's a lot of adversity in business and life. It will always humble you. But when have you sought out the humbling? That's what I love about immersive experiences. I've done over 20 of them, from solitude trips to jumping out of planes with Navy SEALs. I've been blessed to have some extreme opportunities, but I can tell you I've done some other things, more quiet, and I did them on purpose because it was the right thing to do. If you were to name today one step right now that if you took this step, you know it would create momentum in your life, what would that step be? One small step that would actually help you build momentum. So clarity starts with you. Alignment helps you focus. It helps you dial it in. Where are you in alignment? Where might you be out of alignment? And then activation is this awakening. So before I close today, our team built out a reflection guide. So I'm gonna leave this up on the screen here right now. If this interests you, I hope and pray that you carve out some intentional time post-conference to work on it. Again, I love this time of year. We are in a season of gratitude. We should always be in a season of gratitude, but there's some symbolic things as we approach the holiday season. It's a really good time to be both reflective and introspective. I'm sorry, did you get that? I just moved the slide. Okay, we'll make sure you get it. So I'm gonna close with this today. This church is a very special place for so many of us. And maybe not all of you go to church here, but your church is a special place for all of you. And I remember years ago, we would bring our kids to daycare here. And when I first started the business, I would come in early and I would sneak in the back. And I say sneak, Paul, because I wasn't sure if I should be in here or not, but the doors were open. So I'd slip into the back and I would sit in the very back pew. And I would sit in the silence with this cross. When my dad passed unexpectedly at 62, this church was the place that reconnected my family. He was the glue that kept it all together. But this church brought us all back together. What I'm continuing to learn is it doesn't matter what kind of framework, podcast, conference that you can attend. Nothing quite prepares you for the humbling and the growth and the character building of our life. There is nothing more humbling, nothing more inspiring to sit in the presence of your faith. And I think in the world that we're living in, where we're losing connection not only to ourselves, but to others, that this conference is an opportunity to reconnect us to really what matters the most. We're all trying to achieve big goals. I'm never gonna stop with my goal setting. I love to set goals. It motivates me, it challenges me. So this isn't a message to stop moving forward with some of your greatest achievements. I know many of you in this room feel like you're being called to something greater, that you want to achieve your purpose that God has for you on this earth, to utilize your God-given talents. But when you really stop and think about it, none of it matters. My very humbling days and moments of sitting in that back pew always reminded me that my faith, the relationships that I cared about the most, and my health, those are the things that really mattered. And I think conferences like this, Sarah, remind us on all of that. So I want to leave you with this perspective that it's not about the goals necessarily that we're trying to achieve, it's who we are becoming in the process. Through the adversity, planned for or unexpected, God has a way of preparing all of us through character, through growth. So I want to inspire all of you to keep living what you lead, because this world needs more aligned and values-based leaders. Thank you for having me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Kara. Let's give her one more round of applause. I imagine that resonated deeply with many people in the room. I'm not going to lie. Well, first, I was feverishly writing notes. In the first 5 minutes, I think I had half a page written, and I looked at my phone, which it was sitting next to me, and I went, how many pages do I have to be able to take notes? Because it spoke so deeply to me what you were saying. I remember 3 years ago when I was considering purchasing the Dale Carnegie franchise, and I asked the previous owner, what's something that I should know before making this decision? What's something you would do differently? And she said, I would rest, be a better mom, and sleep more. And there were so many things that you talked about that reminded me of that, and a big part of why is because even though I'd received that advice, I was in misalignment and got caught up in the busyness, in the pace of what it is like to do life and work and business, and totally lost fulfillment. It was about 1.5 years ago when I was reading The Best Yes by Lisa TerKeurst, and I read the quote, "A woman with an overwhelmed schedule will live with an underwhelmed soul." And I wept. Realizing in that moment, that is exactly what I was experiencing, and it is so much of what Kara talked about in the last hour. There is an incredible power in choosing alignment over comfort. Yet we get so caught up in what is happening in our day-to-day, in what the world demands, that so often we forget what we are called to do. We forget to listen. A challenge that I have been working through over the last few months is to take some time to pause each and every morning. And that's why it's a challenge. It's that consistency of doing it each and every morning. I'm definitely not perfect. I'm far more consistent now than I ever was before. It's asking the question, God, what would you have me do today? And then actually listening. And not projecting my calendar or the never-ending to-do list that I know is running all of the time onto my day. So thank you, Kara, for taking time this morning to help create alignment for the rest of us, to challenge us to get clear, to pause, and truly to break pace. We are called to sustainable, joyful living, and without that moment, we will never be able to do so. Up next, we will have the chance to head out to a break and then to our breakout sessions. Each breakout session will be 45 minutes long, and we'll get to choose again between one of 4 different speakers. No need to worry, they will be recorded so we can catch them later and we don't have to worry about missing a thing. Each breakout offers a unique perspective on how we can bring our faith to life in our professional lives. We'll have those 4 speakers. The first will be Mark Dieterding right here on the main stage in Transform. Carly Mock will be speaking at the Discovery Center in Renewal. Dan Holder will be in room 300 at Discern. And Janessa Philippi will be in room 320 at Commit. We'll have time for a break. We'll have about 22 minutes. We get a little extra time, some bonus for fellowship and refreshments. And then let's plan to be in our seats at 10:20, prepared to receive new messages from our breakout leaders.